Have you ever noticed that whenever we rate someone's looks, we almost never use 5 out of 10 to describe an average looking person? It's always something like 6, 7, sometimes even higher. And I started thinking about that. Why does 7 feel like the new 5? Because in theory, 5 should be the exact middle of the scale. It should mean average, right in the center of how people look overall. But in reality, nobody actually uses the 1 to 10 scale in a mathematical way. We don't look at people like data points and evenly distribute them from 1 to 10. We just feel it, and that changes everything. The lowest numbers like 1, 2, or 3 almost never get used in normal conversation. Those are reserved for extreme cases, and most people don't want to rate someone that harshly anyway. On the other side, nines and tens are also rare, not because they don't exist, but because we usually save those numbers for people who really stand out in a strong way. So what ends up happening is that most people get pushed into the middle of the scale. That's why someone who is average looking doesn't really end up as a 5 in real life. They end up being called a 6, 7, or sometimes even a bit higher. Not because they are actually above average in a statistical sense, but because the scale we use in everyday life is compressed. And here's the funny part: 5 out of 10 technically means middle of the population, but if someone called you a 5, it would probably feel a bit insulting, even though, logically, it just means you're exactly average. That's how weird it gets. The number stops being about math and starts being about emotion. And another thing I noticed is that people don't really think about what these numbers imply. If say someone is a 7 out of 10, you're technically saying they're above average compared to most people. But in reality, nobody really means it that way. It just means they look normal, slightly attractive, nothing extreme. So the whole scale kind of breaks down when you think about it too deeply. Because it's not really a real measurement system. It's more like a social shortcut, a way to quickly express how someone looks without actually defining anything first. And that's probably why 7 became the new average. Not because people got better looking, but because the way we use the scale just shifted over time. So yeah, it's not math. It's just perception bias and how humans simplify things in their head.